Hey there, James Ryan here, creator of the Sales Copy Academy, the place where we teach you how to sell anything to anyone. And I am so excited that you're here today for the free 3-day video series on learning how to persuade and influence people into buying anything that you sell to them. First of all, thank you so much for subscribing to this mini video series. I know your time is super valuable, just like mine, and I am really happy that you've decided to spend just a small part of your day to learn about what exactly it is that makes people decide whether to buy a product or not, and how to use sales persuasion to skyrocket your income and financial freedom. If you're watching this video, I bet that you either already have a product and you're looking for ways to increase sales, or perhaps you're thinking of creating a product, digital or not, and you want to know how to give yourself an early advantage by learning about what sells and how to talk to people so that you can get them excited about your product and ready to buy. Just a side note here before we start, the things you will learn in this video can be used not only to sell your own products or affiliate products that you're promoting, but they can also be used in everyday life. For example, when interacting with people, persuading friends or co-workers, getting a better job, and even just getting people to agree with you and follow your instructions. The skills you learn in this video have an almost infinite number of uses and an unlimited amount of benefits that can provide to you today, tomorrow, 2 weeks from now, or even 20 years in the future. The lessons of these videos are time-proof, which means they will never stop working, just like humans will never stop being humans. And the reason for this is that I will teach you about human psychology, and human psychology is never expiring. You will not learn about some trend that is super hot today and gone tomorrow. You will actually learn skills that will stay with you throughout your life. Now you may be thinking, James, why should I listen to you? What do you know that I don't? Well, let me introduce myself a little better. When I was 16 years old, my family was going through some really hard times. Both of my parents were unemployed. My dad was doing on and off jobs wherever she could find them, and the bank was demanding payment of our house loan, which my parents simply couldn't pay at the time. I remember one day I was at school in history class, and I was feeling incredibly sad. I was worrying about how my family will get through this and whether the bank will take our house, and my brother was only 11 years old at the time. So as his older brother, I was feeling very responsible for him. It was at that moment that I decided to leave school and get a job. I was tired of feeling useless, so I decided to take action and save my family. So I left school and I started to look for work. And as you can imagine, it was not long before I came to realize that no one would hire me. I was just too young and didn't have enough experience for anything. So I turned to the one place where age and experience didn't matter, the internet. I signed up for a freelancing website where I was offering graphic design work for incredibly cheap prices. Slowly but steadily, I started getting customers. My very cheap rates were attracting a lot of attention, and within weeks, I was working almost 11 hours a day. Within 6 months, I was generating a real income, a real online income, more than both of my parents ever made in their lives, but I had no time to be happy about it. I was working non-stop, swamped with orders and demanding customers. I knew that if I wanted to have a real life, I had to find something else to do. And that's when I started to become interested in marketing. I began reading every book I could find on consumer persuasion and copywriting. I would go to bookstores and stay in the business section for hours. I signed up for, I don't even remember how many courses about internet marketing, and I was working on all of my free time. But simply learning from books was not enough. Many of the best marketers and advertisers never actually wrote a book, so I had to find another way to learn from them. What I did was I started spying on what they were doing. I was there for every product launch, every ad campaign, and every sales page. I would actually copy successful sales funnels completely and analyze them to see what makes them so successful. At the end, recurring themes started popping up. Things like specific words many marketers are using or specific colors. Other things were the prices of the more successful products and the way the marketers were talking to their audiences to persuade them. So I started putting everything I was learning into practice by promoting other people's products at first and earning commissions for every sale I was making. I started implementing what I was learning into my ads, and slowly I was coming up with my very own formula on how to convince people to buy a product. At first, my formula was actually just a notebook full of notes of what I was learning, my observations of what other marketers were doing, and the results of my own tests. But over time, I began refining my formula to include 5 main steps. I want to show you these 5 steps in this video so you can use them as well when selling a product. And by the way, there is a link somewhere in this page where you can download a PDF that includes all 5 steps that I will show to you today, so you can refer back to them anytime you want. All right, here we go with the 5 steps to convince people to buy anything. The first thing you need to do is to get your prospects' attention. This should be pretty obvious because without attention, no one will listen to what you have to say and no one will actually read your sales page or buy your product. Now, did you know that the average American is exposed to 3,000 to 5,000 sales messages every day? I know this sounds crazy, but it's actually true. So here's how to get attention. First, make a bold promise in your headline. People don't really care about your product or what it does. The only thing that they care about is what they will gain from it. So write on your first headline, write the biggest benefit that your product offers to your customers. You can think, what is the biggest reason someone would buy my product? Okay, ask yourself this question, and whatever the answer is, then that's your product's biggest benefit. And you should include it in your biggest headline to attract the most attention possible to your sales page or ad. The second step is to continue with a story. So you got people hooked with your super attractive and attention-grabbing headline. So what do you do next? Well, people at this stage will be intrigued by your promise and they will be curious about what you're all about, right? So you have to be really careful here because this will be the tipping point. You got people in, but they're still uncertain if they should trust you or not. So the way to keep them interested and build trust is to start your sales pitch with a story. The reason for this is because stories are very enjoyable and fun to read. Stories reach the emotional side of our brain, and coincidentally, 95% of our buying decisions are in fact emotional. Now, do you think it's hard to write a story? Some people think it's hard, but actually it's not hard at all. In fact, it's probably the easiest part of this entire 5-step formula. The reason for this is because the story already exists. There is a story to be told behind every product creation, right? Remember a few minutes ago how I told you about my story about when I dropped out of high school when I was 16 years old? Well, yes, that was actually a true story. It really happened. And if you're still watching this video, then it means it was captivating enough for you to continue watching. So right after you hook people with your bold and promising headline, you need to keep the flow going with a captivating and emotional story to keep them reading. The third step is, of course, presenting the problem. this is the right time to talk about the problem that your potential buyers are experiencing. Every product solves some kind of problem. For example, if you're selling a course on how to be more productive, the problem here is procrastination and the feeling of guilt that we get when we have things to do, but we leave them for later and be lazy. You know this kind of feeling, right? So you're selling a course about this. Now, what you need to do is actually presenting the problem actually means describing the pain of your audience in as much gruesome detail as possible. Don't be afraid to really step on the wound here, right? The more you make your audience aware of their problem, the more chances you will have of motivating them to take action by buying your product. Additionally, warn your audience about the consequences of not buying your product. What will happen if they don't buy your product? If they don't buy for example, if they don't buy your productivity course, then they will just continue procrastinating, putting tasks off, and never achieve their dreams and goals, right? These are the consequences of not buying your course right now. So now that you've presented the problem, what's left to do? Well, the fourth step is to provide the solution, which will be, of course, the product you're promoting. Right after you describe the problem, you need to give them the solution. You have your audience thinking and worrying about their problem, so now it's the perfect time to show them the way out. You need to introduce your product by stating its name and why it's the ultimate solution. And you don't want to simply tell them why your product is so great. You have to actually overwhelm them with benefits. Are you selling a productivity course? Then tell them how fast they can expect to see results if they buy it, how other students of the course were able to combat procrastination and achieve more, how they will be able to reach their goals by following your course, and even talk about all the content that it's there and how it will be useful for them. You see, you have to leave nothing to chance here. It's not enough to just say that your product is a solution. You have to actually describe why this is the case, right? You have to actually give some kind of proof. So the fifth and final step is to close the sale. This may sound obvious, but you would be amazed with how many people get this completely wrong. By this point, your readers or listeners will be in mental agony about their problems and desperately looking for a way out. And they're also excited about using your product to make their problem go away. They're optimistic about the future, and this is the right time to close the sale. And when I say close the sale, I mean if you're selling online, then you have to place a large buy button and point to it to let readers know that that's the next step. You should never assume that people will just know what to do. You always have to tell them, and you always have to give them really simple and specific instructions. So don't say, for example, sign up for the course to get access to it. Instead, say something like, click the button below and enter your name and email to get instant access to the course. You see, you always have to be really clear and specific with what you want people to do. So to recap real quickly, here are the 5 steps to convince people to buy anything. First, get their attention. Second, continue with a story that immerses them. Third, stress the problem and don't be afraid to really press the wound. Fourth, present your product as the ultimate solution. And finally, close the sale by telling them exactly how to own your product. Here's the deal though, it's not enough to just know these 5 steps. Knowledge is useless without action. You actually have to put them into practice if you want to see real results. So here's your homework. Download the PDF from this page that includes all 5 steps, so you can have it with you whenever you need to remind yourself of each one. Then, create a new document on your computer or just a notepad and write down how you're going to use each step for the product you're selling. Don't be afraid to get really specific and detailed. The better prepared you are, the more chances you have of becoming successful. And remember, success is all about knowledge, strategy, and action. You just acquired a new piece of knowledge by learning about these 5 steps. Your next step is to come up with a strategy of how you will use them, and only after you have your strategy ready, you should put them into action. I really hope you found this video useful. If you did, then watch out for the next one, where I will reveal the 3-step formula behind 99% of all transactions. This 3-step formula will actually take you backstage into what happens inside a person's mind when he's presented with an offer to buy something, and the 3 steps that follow that lead to a purchase. And I will actually show you how to trigger this sequence into action to almost guarantee a sale. Knowing this stuff will put you light years ahead of your competitors who just put something up for sale and just expect people to throw their money at them, which almost never happens. Once you learn this the 3-step formula, you will actually know why people decide to buy something, so you can use this to your advantage. Alright, that's it for now. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and look out for the next email I'll send you with a second free video in this series. And also, leave your comments and questions below. I'm answering every single one, and I'd love to know what you're thinking. Talk to you soon.